Royal King's horse guards are not let Karen to touch the horse. Karen had always loved stories about kings, queens, and majestic castles. Ever since she was a little girl, she would sit by the window, imagining herself wandering through grand halls filled with shining chandeliers, tapestries, and sparkling floors. But today was no ordinary day. Today, Karen was actually going to visit a real palace. The excitement inside her felt like 1,000 butterflies fluttering at once. She had dreamed of seeing a palace horse in real life, but she never thought it would be this close, this real. As she walked toward the palace gates, the enormous iron doors towered over her, carved with intricate patterns of lions and crowns. The sunlight reflected off the golden edges, making the gates shine like they were alive. Karen paused for a moment, staring in awe. She felt tiny, like a small leaf in a vast forest. The guards standing by the gates were dressed in bright red uniforms with tall hats that almost touched their shoulders. They stood perfectly still, their eyes scanning the surroundings with sharp attention. Karen felt a little nervous. She had never seen people so serious and disciplined before. A kind attendant approached her, smiling warmly. "Welcome to the palace, Miss Karen," he said. "The king's horses are waiting. Please follow me." Karen nodded eagerly, trying to control her excitement, though it was impossible. Every step toward the stables made her heart beat faster. She had always imagined horses as graceful creatures, but now she was about to see one that belonged to a king. The very thought made her feel as though she had stepped into a fairy tale. The path to the stables was lined with tall, flowering trees. Birds chirped in the branches above, and the faint scent of fresh hay mixed with flowers filled the air. Karen could hear the soft thudding of hooves from a distance. Her eyes sparkled. She could hardly wait to see the king's prized horses. Each step made the thudding louder, and she could feel her excitement building like a balloon ready to burst. When they reached the stables, Karen stopped in her tracks. The doors were wide open, revealing rows of beautiful horses. Each horse looked more magnificent than she had ever imagined. Some were chestnut brown with shiny coats, others black as midnight with eyes that seemed to hold deep wisdom. But one horse stood out above all. It was a pure white stallion, tall and strong, with a flowing mane that seemed to dance in the sunlight. Its eyes were deep and intelligent, almost as if it understood every word Karen whispered to it. She couldn't take her eyes off it. Karen wanted to run forward to touch the horse, to feel its soft coat under her fingers. But then she remembered the guards. Two guards were standing near the horse, their posture stiff and alert. They did not smile, nor did they speak unless spoken to. Karen felt a little nervous again. She had never encountered rules so strict, rules that made her stop in her tracks. But curiosity was stronger than nerves. She stepped closer, hoping the guards would allow her just a small touch. "Miss Karen," the attendant said softly, "the horse is very special. Only the king's trainers are allowed to handle him. You may look, but you must not touch." Karen nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. She understood the rules, but her heart wanted to reach out anyway. She had never seen a horse this magnificent, and the idea of touching it seemed like a dream coming true. Her fingers twitched as if they had a mind of their own, longing to feel the softness of the horse's mane. She stayed quiet, observing the horse from a short distance, her eyes following every graceful movement it made. The white stallion lifted its head, snorted softly, and flicked its tail. Karen watched every detail, the way its muscles moved under the shining coat, the gentle sway of its mane, and the intelligence in its eyes. She felt a connection with the animal, even without touching it. It was as if the horse could sense her admiration and curiosity. Karen smiled softly. Just seeing it, being close to it, made her feel happy beyond words. While Karen was enchanted by the white stallion, she also noticed the other horses. There was a chestnut mare with a playful sparkle in her eyes, a dark brown gelding that stamped the ground impatiently, and a gentle black horse that seemed calm and wise. Corinne's imagination ran wild. She imagined the stories behind each horse, the races they had won, the journeys they had taken, and the adventures they had been part of in the royal palace. Each horse had a personality, a story that made it more than just an animal. Corinne loved animals deeply, and this moment made her heart swell with joy. The guards stood silently, their eyes sharp, but Corinne noticed that they were also observant of her reactions. They had a duty to protect the horses, but they were not unkind. One guard, taller than the others with a neatly trimmed mustache, seemed to notice Corinne's fascination. He gave a small nod, as if acknowledging her respect for the horse, though he did not speak. Corinne felt reassured, realizing that as long as she followed the rules, she could enjoy this magical moment without trouble. As time passed, Corinne's excitement remained, but she also felt a sense of calm. Watching the horses move gracefully in their stalls, hearing their soft snorts and the gentle clatter of hooves, she felt peaceful. It was a moment she wished could last forever. She realized that sometimes, just being near something beautiful was enough, even if you couldn't touch it. The palace, the horses, and the disciplined guards created an experience unlike anything she had imagined. Corinne's attention returned to the white stallion. She studied its eyes, noticing the way they followed every movement around the stable. The horse's coat seemed to shine even brighter as the sunlight fell on it. Corinne whispered softly, almost hoping the horse could hear her, "You're the most beautiful horse I have ever seen." Though she could not touch it, she felt a bond forming in that quiet, magical moment. It was a bond of admiration and respect, a connection that did not require words or physical contact. The attendant finally spoke, reminding Corinne that it was time to move on to the next part of the palace tour. Corinne felt a little reluctant. She wanted to stay longer, to continue watching the horses, but she knew that there would be other opportunities to learn more about them. She took a deep breath, letting the moment sink into her memory. She knew she would remember this visit for the rest of her life. The smell of the stables, the sound of the hooves, the shine of the horses' coats, and the proud, silent guards who kept everything safe. As Corinne walked away, she glanced back one last time at the white stallion. The horse lifted its head as if in farewell, and Corinne waved softly. She felt a mix of happiness and longing. She had learned that admiration did not always mean possession, and that respect and patience were part of the joy of seeing something rare and beautiful. Even as she left the stable, Corinne's mind continued to dance with images of the palace horses. She imagined them running freely in the royal fields, feeling the wind in their manes, and galloping under the bright sky. Her excitement for the day had not diminished. It had transformed into a quiet appreciation, a deeper understanding of what it meant to witness something truly majestic. The palace visit had begun in awe and curiosity, and Corinne felt that it had already given her a treasure far greater than she expected. She had seen beauty, discipline, and the magic of a royal world, all in one place. And though she had not touched the white stallion, she realized that sometimes the greatest joy came simply from being close to something extraordinary. Corinne walked with a lighter step, her heart full of wonder. She could not wait to see what the rest of the palace had in store for her. The day was just beginning, but it had already filled her with memories she would cherish forever. Corinne's curiosity about the palace and its horses did not fade even as she left the stables. In fact, it grew stronger with every step she took along the wide, marble-floored corridor. The palace walls were covered with paintings of kings and queens from centuries past. Each portrait seemed to tell a story of bravery, wisdom, and splendor. Corinne paused often to admire them, imagining the lives of those who once walked these same halls. She could almost hear the whispers of history echoing softly through the corridors. Even as she admired the artwork, her mind kept wandering back to the horses. The white stallion with its flowing mane and intelligent eyes had left a mark on her heart. Karen felt a mix of longing and admiration. She wished she could somehow get closer, just to touch its soft coat and feel the warmth of its body. But she remembered the guard's warning. She had to be careful. Still, a part of her couldn't help dreaming of a tiny chance, just a little moment to connect with the horse. As she walked, a younger guard approached her. Unlike the tall, serious guards she had seen before, this one seemed friendlier. He smiled slightly, though he remained professional. "Miss Karen," he said, "the horses are very sensitive. They can sense fear, excitement, or sudden movements. Even touching them without permission could make them nervous. It is important to observe them carefully and patiently." Karen nodded thoughtfully. "I understand," she replied softly. I love them so much. They are beautiful and I want to be close to them." The guard gave a small nod, almost as if he understood. "Your love for them is clear," he said, "but patience is part of learning about them. You will see, sometimes waiting makes the experience even more special." Karen thought about his words as she continued her walk. She realized that the palace was full of rules, not to limit her, but to protect everything within it: the horses, the visitors, and even the history itself. It was a place of beauty and discipline combined, and every rule had a reason behind it. This made her feel a mixture of respect and curiosity. She wanted to learn not only about the horses but also about the palace and its traditions. After walking for a while, Karen reached an open courtyard. The sun shone brightly, and birds flew gracefully across the sky. The courtyard was decorated with colorful flowers, neatly trimmed hedges, and sparkling fountains. The sound of water splashing gently added a calm rhythm to the atmosphere. In the center of the courtyard stood a statue of a horse in mid-gallop, carved with incredible detail. Karen walked closer, marveling at the craftsmanship. She imagined how the horse must have looked in real life, powerful and free, just like the white stallion she had seen in the stables. Suddenly, she noticed movement near one corner of the courtyard. It was the white stallion. Karen's eyes widened in surprise. How could the horse be out here? Her heart beat faster as she realized that this was a rare opportunity to observe the horse in a more natural setting. She felt a mixture of excitement and caution. She remembered the guard's warning but couldn't resist the chance to watch the horse more closely. The stallion moved gracefully across the courtyard, its hooves making soft, rhythmic sounds on the stone floor. The sunlight glinted off its coat, making it look like it was glowing. Karen watched in awe, forgetting everything else around her. The guards remained at a distance, their eyes carefully following her as well as the horse, ensuring that she did not get too close. Karen understood the balance. She could observe, admire, and learn, but she had to respect the rules. Her mind wandered as she watched the horse. She imagined what it would feel like to ride it, to feel the wind rushing past her as it galloped across a vast field. She imagined brushing its mane, feeding it apples, and whispering secrets to it. But deep down, she also realized that the horse was not hers to touch or command. It belonged to the king and the palace, and its world was different from hers. This thought made her admiration even deeper. Sometimes, beauty was meant to be observed, not owned. As she continued to watch, Karen noticed small details she had not seen before. The horse's muscles moved with precision and strength. Its eyes reflected intelligence and curiosity. Its ears flicked to different sounds, and its tail swished gracefully. Every movement was perfect, disciplined, and yet natural. Karen felt as if she were learning a silent language of horses, one of respect, awareness, and connection. She could almost hear the horse's thoughts, though she knew it was impossible. In her imagination, it seemed to understand her admiration. The friendly guard who had spoken to her earlier stayed nearby, observing silently. After a while, he spoke again. "Do you see how careful the horse is? Even small changes in its surroundings can affect it. That is why the king's trainers spend years learning to work with them. Every action has a purpose." Karen nodded, taking in every word. She realized that her desire to touch the horse, though natural, had to wait. Learning about patience, observation, and respect was part of the experience. She felt a strange satisfaction knowing that she could enjoy the horse's presence without needing to touch it. Sometimes, the greatest lessons came from restraint, not action. The white stallion began to move toward the other side of the courtyard, its steps steady and elegant. Corinne followed with her eyes, careful not to make any sudden movements. She noticed a younger horse nearby, playing gently with a ball that had been left in the courtyard. Corinne smiled. She loved seeing the horses in their moments of play, observing their personalities and quirks. Each horse seemed unique, with its own thoughts, feelings, and rhythm. She realized that understanding them was more than touching. It was about seeing, learning, and respecting. Hours seemed to pass as Corinne continued to watch and learn. She asked questions politely when the guards explained certain behaviors. She learned how horses communicated through movements, sounds, and expressions. She learned about their diets, routines, and training. Each detail fascinated her more than the last. The white stallion remained the center of her attention, but she now understood the world around it better. It was a world of rules, care, and deep knowledge. By late afternoon, the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the courtyard. Corinne felt a mixture of contentment and longing. She had not touched the horse, but she had learned so much more than she expected. She had seen beauty, grace, and intelligence firsthand. She had understood the importance of patience and observation. Most importantly, she had formed a silent connection with the white stallion, one that did not need words or physical touch. As the attendants called her to move toward the next part of the palace, Corinne felt a sense of pride. She had followed the rules, respected the guards, and still experienced the magic of the horses. She had discovered that curiosity could coexist with discipline, and admiration could be expressed without possession. Before leaving the courtyard, Corinne turned back one last time. The white stallion was calm, grazing gently, its eyes occasionally flicking toward her. She waved softly, and in her heart she whispered, "I will remember you forever." She smiled, knowing that this memory would stay with her for a lifetime, a treasure more valuable than any touch or close encounter could provide. As she walked away, Corinne felt a sense of growth. Her love for horses had deepened, and so had her understanding of patience, respect, and learning. The palace was not just a place of beauty, it was a place of lessons, discipline, and wonder. Corinne realized that sometimes the greatest adventures were not about breaking rules or getting what you wanted immediately, but about learning, observing, and appreciating the world as it was meant to be experienced. The path to the next part of the palace was filled with excitement and anticipation. Corinne's heart raced not just because of curiosity, but because she now felt a deeper connection to the palace, its history, and the magnificent creatures that lived within it. She understood that each moment, each observation, and each rule had its purpose. And with that understanding, she felt ready to explore more, to learn more, and to continue her magical journey in this world of royalty, beauty, and horses. Corinne had never felt such a mix of excitement and nervousness before. The palace tour continued, but her thoughts kept returning to the white stallion. Every corner she turned, every hallway she walked down, seemed to pull her back toward the stables. She tried to focus on the artwork, the grand chandeliers, and the history around her, but the image of the horse's shining coat and intelligent eyes kept appearing in her mind. It was as if the horse itself was calling to her, inviting her to understand it even more deeply. As the group moved through the palace, Corinne's eyes caught a small side door, slightly ajar, leading to the courtyard where the white stallion had been grazing earlier. Her heart skipped a beat. She knew she should not think of going that way, but curiosity pushed her forward. She glanced at the guards accompanying the group, noticing that they were busy showing another visitor the royal library. This small distraction gave her an idea, one that made her pulse quicken with both excitement and fear. Karen moved slowly toward the door, trying to remain unnoticed. She told herself that she only wanted to get a closer look, to admire the horse from just a little closer distance. She did not want to break any rules intentionally. She only wanted to feel the moment fully. Her steps were quiet, her breathing controlled, as if she were on a secret mission. Every fiber of her being focused on the white stallion waiting in the courtyard. As she stepped through the door, Karen's eyes widened. The courtyard was bathed in warm sunlight, and the white stallion was even more magnificent than she remembered. It moved gracefully, sniffing the air and flicking its tail. Karen felt her heart race with joy and anticipation. She wanted to run to it, to reach out and touch it, but she remembered the guard's warnings. She knew she had to be careful, patient, and respectful. Karen walked closer, her eyes fixed on the horse. She noticed every detail again, the way its muscles moved with strength and precision, the shine of its coat, the gentle sway of its mane. She felt a deep connection forming, stronger than ever before. She whispered softly, almost hoping the horse could hear her, "You are the most beautiful creature I have ever seen." The horse flicked its ears and looked toward her, as if acknowledging her presence. Karen's heart leapt with happiness. Just as she reached a spot where she could admire the horse fully, a guard's voice rang out behind her. "Miss Karen, you should not be here." Karen froze. The tall guard she had seen in the stables appeared at the edge of the courtyard, his expression serious but not angry. Karen's cheeks flushed with a mix of fear and embarrassment. She had not intended to disobey the rules, but her curiosity had led her to this moment. I I just wanted to see the horse a little closer," Karen said softly, trying to explain herself. "I didn't mean any trouble." The guard approached slowly, his eyes still sharp. "Curiosity is natural, Miss Karen," he said, "but rules exist to protect the horses. Even the smallest movement can startle them, and they are powerful animals. You must respect that." Karen nodded quickly, feeling a mix of regret and understanding. She stepped back, giving the horse more space. She realized that even a moment of disobedience could have consequences, not just for her but for the horse as well. The stallion shifted its weight slightly, sensing the tension in the air. Karen understood that she had been lucky nothing had startled it. The friendly guard who had spoken to her earlier appeared beside her, offering a gentle smile. "It is okay," he said kindly. "You did not harm the horse, and you can still admire it from here. Sometimes the desire to touch is strong, but respect is stronger." Karen took a deep breath, letting his words sink in. She realized that her admiration for the horse could be expressed in other ways, through observation, patience, and understanding. She watched the stallion as it moved across the courtyard, its movements precise and elegant. Every step seemed like a dance, and Karen felt as if she were witnessing art in motion. As she observed the horse, Karen's imagination ran wild. She pictured herself learning to care for it, to groom it, and to understand its personality. She imagined the bond that could form over time through patience and trust. She understood that this bond could not be rushed. It had to be earned through respect and care. The thought made her heart swell with a new kind of excitement, one that was calmer, wiser, and more meaningful. The stallion approached a shaded area of the courtyard, and Karen noticed a small bucket of water and some apples nearby. She realized that even here, the king's trainers had prepared for the horse's needs with care and attention. Every detail mattered in the palace, from the smallest food bowl to the largest horse. Karen admired not only the horse, but also the dedication of those who cared for it. Minutes passed, and Karen continued to watch quietly. She saw the stallion lower its head to drink water, its movements smooth and careful. She noticed the way its ears twitched at every sound, the way its tail moved rhythmically, and the way its eyes followed the smallest movement. Karen felt as if she were learning a secret language, one that spoke of respect, patience, and understanding. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the courtyard, rustling the leaves of nearby trees. The horse lifted its head, alert and watchful. Karen held her breath, fearing that any sudden movement could startle it. She remained perfectly still, her heart pounding, as the horse relaxed again. She realized that observing the horse required calmness and awareness. It was a lesson in mindfulness, one that she would remember long after leaving the palace. The friendly guard spoke again, his voice calm and encouraging. "Do you see, Miss Karen? The horse reacts to its surroundings and it learns from every experience. By watching and understanding, you are building a connection, even without touching." Karen nodded, absorbing every word. She felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had learned that connection was not always physical. It could be felt through attention, care, and understanding. She smiled softly, feeling closer to the stallion than ever before. Time seemed to slow as Karen continued to observe. She saw the horse stretch its legs, roll slightly on the ground, and shake its mane in the sunlight. Every movement was graceful, deliberate, and full of life. Karen felt as if she were part of a magical moment, one that few people could experience. She understood that patience and respect had allowed her this rare opportunity. As the afternoon sun began to lower, the attendants called for visitors to move toward the next part of the palace tour. Karen felt a mixture of reluctance and gratitude. She did not want to leave the courtyard, but she knew she had learned a valuable lesson. She had experienced the thrill of curiosity, the tension of temptation, and the satisfaction of respect. Before leaving, she took one last look at the white stallion. The horse stood proudly, its mane flowing gently in the breeze. Karen whispered softly, "I will come back someday and I will learn more from you." She waved her hand, feeling a deep sense of connection and admiration. The guards accompanied her back through the palace corridors. Karen walked with a lighter heart, understanding that sometimes the greatest experiences came not from breaking rules, but from respecting them. She had faced the temptation to get closer, had resisted, and had still experienced something extraordinary. As she rejoined the group, Karen felt her confidence grow. She realized that curiosity, when guided by respect and patience, could lead to amazing discoveries. The palace, the horses, and the disciplined guards had taught her more than she could have imagined. She felt wiser, calmer, and more connected to the world around her. That evening, as Karen reflected on the day, she thought about the lessons she had learned. She had learned that beauty and admiration did not always require possession. She had learned that rules existed for a reason, and that respecting them could lead to deeper understanding. Most importantly, she had learned that true connection came from attention, care, and patience. Karen knew that her journey with the palace horses was only beginning. There would be more to see, more to learn, and more to experience. But she also knew that the bond she had formed with the white stallion, even from a distance, was special and meaningful. She carried the memory with her, a treasure that would inspire her for years to come. As the sun set, casting golden light across the palace gardens, Karen smiled to herself. She felt a quiet joy, knowing that the magic of the white stallion and the palace would stay with her forever. She had faced temptation, learned patience, and discovered the beauty of admiration without possession. And in that moment, she realized that this was a lesson she would never forget. After the afternoon tour, Karen found a quiet bench in a shaded courtyard to rest. Her mind was still filled with images of the white stallion, its flowing mane and calm, intelligent eyes. She sat quietly, letting the sounds of the palace, soft footsteps of attendants, distant laughter of other visitors, and the gentle rustling of trees in the breeze wash over her. For the first time, Karen had a chance to think about everything she had experienced so far. She reflected on her small attempt to approach the stallion earlier. At first, she had felt a mix of excitement and fear, but now, thinking back, she realized how much she had learned from that moment. Her curiosity had been strong, almost irresistible, yet the intervention of the guards had shown her the importance of rules. Karen understood that the rules were not meant to punish her curiosity, but to protect her and the horses. This realization gave her a sense of calm satisfaction. As she watched a few younger visitors pass by, Karen noticed how they ran excitedly toward the stables, some pointing and laughing. She smiled, realizing that she had once been like them, full of energy, eager, and a little impatient. But today, her perspective had changed. She had learned that observing with patience could bring a deeper joy than rushing to touch or hold. She thought about the friendly guard's words earlier. That connection could be built without physical contact, through attention and respect. Karen felt proud that she had understood this lesson on her own. Karen's eyes wandered to the white stallion again, which had been brought back to its stable for feeding and grooming. She watched as the king's trainers carefully approached the horse, speaking to it softly and offering gentle touches. Every movement was deliberate, respectful, and precise. Karen noticed the trust between the horse and its caretakers, the way it responded calmly, without fear or hesitation. She realized that this trust had been built over time, with patience, care, and consistent respect. She admired not just the horse, but the bond that had formed through dedication and understanding. As she continued to watch, Karen felt a wave of empathy for the guards. She had seen them as strict and unyielding, but now she understood that their seriousness came from responsibility and care. They were protectors, not barriers. Their duty was to ensure that the horses remained safe and that visitors could enjoy the experience without danger. Karen reflected on her small act of wandering toward the courtyard. She had not intended to cause harm, but she realized how easily things could have gone wrong. The guards had intervened not out of anger, but out of wisdom and concern. Karen's thoughts drifted to her own feelings. She had been so focused on her desire to touch the horse that she had almost forgotten the importance of respect and patience. But now, she understood that true admiration did not need to be expressed through touch alone. Watching, listening, and learning were just as powerful, if not more so. Karen felt a sense of growth. She was learning to balance curiosity with mindfulness, excitement with self-control. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting warm, golden light across the palace gardens. Karen stood up and walked slowly along the cobblestone paths, taking in the beauty around her. The flowers seemed brighter in the late afternoon sun, and the gentle breeze carried the soft scent of roses and jasmine. She noticed how the guards moved gracefully through the grounds, always alert but never harsh. Every detail of the palace, from the plants to the architecture to the horses, was cared for with thought and precision. Karen felt a sense of respect for the entire palace, not just for the horses or the rules, but for the dedication of everyone who worked there. As she walked, the friendly guard who had spoken to her earlier appeared again. He smiled warmly. "Miss Karen, would you like to learn how we care for the horses?" he asked. Karen's eyes lit up. She nodded eagerly. "Yes, please," she replied. The guard led her to a smaller stable where a few young horses were being groomed and fed. Karen watched closely as the trainers demonstrated proper techniques for brushing, feeding, and cleaning. Every movement was gentle, precise, and deliberate. The horses responded calmly, showing trust and cooperation. Karen was fascinated. She had never realized how much skill, patience, and care went into handling horses properly. The guard explained each step carefully, answering Karen's questions with patience. "Horses are sensitive creatures," he said. "They notice everything, your touch, your voice, your energy. That is why it is important to move slowly, speak softly, and always show respect. Trust is earned, not demanded." Karen nodded, absorbing every word. She realized that her brief encounter with the white stallion had been only a small part of the learning process. True understanding came from observation, study, and careful attention to detail. She felt a deep appreciation for the time and effort the trainers invested in their work. It was more than care, it was a commitment to respect and understanding. After spending time learning about the young horses, Karen sat again in the courtyard to rest. She reflected on everything she had experienced that day. The lessons were clear. Curiosity was valuable, but it needed to be balanced with respect. Desire to touch or possess something beautiful could be tempered with patience. Admiration could be expressed through attention, care, and understanding, not just physical interaction. Karen felt a sense of accomplishment. She had learned so much, and yet she knew there was still more to discover. As she watched the white stallion in its stable from a distance, Karen realized that her admiration for the horse had changed. It was no longer just about wanting to touch it or feel close to it. It was about understanding its world, respecting its space, and appreciating its beauty and intelligence from afar. She felt a sense of connection that was deeper than she had ever imagined, a bond based on awareness, respect, and shared quiet moments. Karen thought again about her earlier temptation to approach the horse. She no longer felt disappointment or frustration with herself. Instead, she felt grateful for the experience. The guards had guided her gently but firmly, helping her learn an important lesson. Karen understood that sometimes rules were not obstacles, but teachers. They could shape experiences in ways that made admiration more meaningful and connection stronger. As the evening approached, the palace grounds began to calm. Fewer visitors were around, and the horses were settling down for the night. Karen felt a sense of peace wash over her. The day had been full of excitement, curiosity, and learning, but it had ended with quiet reflection and understanding. She realized that growth often came from moments of challenge and restraint, and she felt proud of herself for navigating those moments with care. Before leaving, Karen walked slowly along the path leading to the palace exit. She took one last look at the white stallion in its stable. The horse stood calmly, its eyes gentle, its posture proud yet relaxed. Karen smiled softly, whispering, "Thank you for teaching me, even without knowing it." She felt a sense of gratitude for the horse, the palace, and the guards who had guided her experience. As she stepped outside the palace gates, Karen felt a mixture of joy and contentment. The lessons of the day were clear and unforgettable. Curiosity could be balanced with respect, admiration could be expressed through observation, and true connection required patience and care. Karen knew that these lessons would stay with her forever, guiding her not just in the palace, but in every experience she encountered in life. Walking away from the palace, Karen felt her heart lighter, her mind clearer, and her spirit fuller. The white stallion, the disciplined guards, and the beautiful palace grounds had left an indelible mark on her. She had learned that respect, patience, and understanding were as valuable as any physical touch or close encounter. And in that understanding, she felt a quiet happiness, knowing that some of the most meaningful experiences in life were also the most subtle. Karen looked back one final time at the palace, the sun setting behind its tall towers, and smiled. She knew she would return one day, eager to learn more, observe more, and deepen her understanding of the majestic horses and the world they lived in. But for now, she walked away with a heart full of wonder, respect, and gratitude, carrying the lessons of the day with her wherever she went. The next morning, Karen returned to the palace, her heart full of excitement and curiosity. She had spent the previous day reflecting on all that she had learned, and now she was eager to continue her journey of discovery. The sun shone brightly, casting warm light over the palace gates and gardens, and the air was filled with the gentle songs of birds. Karen felt a sense of anticipation she had never experienced before. Today felt special, as if the palace itself was welcoming her back. As she stepped through the gates, the familiar sight of the tall guards greeted her. This time, however, she did not feel nervous. She walked confidently, carrying with her the lessons of patience and respect she had learned the day before. The friendly guard who had guided her previously noticed her arrival and waved warmly. "Welcome back, Miss Karen," he said. "I see that you are ready to learn more today." Karen smiled and nodded. "I am," she said softly. "I want to understand the horses even better." The guard led her to the stables where the white stallion awaited. Karen's eyes lit up when she saw the magnificent horse again. Its coat gleamed in the morning sun, and its eyes sparkled with intelligence. Karen approached slowly, remembering to keep a respectful distance. She felt a deep sense of connection, knowing that this bond was built not through touch, but through observation, care, and understanding. The stallion turned its head toward her as if recognizing her presence. Karen's heart swelled with joy. She whispered softly, "Good morning. I'm happy to see you again." The horse flicked its ears and moved gracefully within the stable, showing the same calm confidence she had admired before. Karen realized that the horse's trust and composure were results of careful training and consistent respect. She admired the discipline and patience that had created such a majestic creature. The friendly guard approached and spoke gently. "Today, you will have the opportunity to observe the horse's training routine," he said. "You may watch closely, ask questions, and learn, but you must remember the rules. The horse responds best to calmness and patience." Karen nodded eagerly. She positioned herself in a corner of the stable where she could see everything without disturbing the horse. The trainer began the routine, moving gracefully as he guided the stallion through exercises designed to improve its agility, strength, and responsiveness. Karen watched intently, noticing the subtle cues between trainer and horse, the gentle touch on the mane, the soft-spoken words, the clear signals that guided the horse's movements. Every step fascinated Karen. She realized how much communication happened without words. The horse seemed to understand not just the trainer's instructions, but the atmosphere of calm respect around it. Karen's admiration grew as she observed the precision and trust involved. She could see that this was not just training, it was a partnership built over time. Karen thought about her own curiosity and how she had once wished to touch the horse. Now she understood that respect and observation were just as powerful in forming a connection. As the routine continued, Karen noticed how the stallion responded to subtle shifts in the trainer's body. A slight movement of the hand, a small change in posture, even a soft change in voice made the horse adjust its stance, lift its head, or change its pace. Karen was amazed at the intelligence and sensitivity of the animal. She understood that the stallion was not simply following commands. It was thinking, feeling, and interacting with care and awareness. After some time, the trainer finished the exercises and offered the stallion a reward, an apple placed gently in a bowl. The horse approached calmly, taking the apple with delicate movements. Karen smiled, understanding that rewards were part of learning, but they were not the only factor. Respect, patience, and consistent guidance were equally important. She realized that the bond between horse and trainer was deep and meaningful, built over time with attention and care. Karen spent the morning observing every detail. She noticed the small gestures of the trainers, the careful brushing of the horse's coat, the gentle cleaning of its hooves, and the soft words spoken to keep it calm. She understood that these actions were more than routine. They were expressions of care and trust. Karen felt inspired by the dedication of everyone involved, from the trainers to the guards. Each person played a role in creating a safe and nurturing environment for the horses. As the morning progressed, the friendly guard spoke again. "Miss Karen, would you like to learn how to approach the horse safely?" he asked. Karen's eyes widened with excitement. She nodded eagerly, ready to learn everything she could. The guard explained the steps carefully. "Approach slowly, speak softly, and keep your hands visible. Never make sudden movements and always watch the horse's body language. Trust is built gradually." Karen followed the instructions closely. She took small steps toward the stallion, her heart pounding with excitement. The horse lifted its head and watched her calmly. Karen moved slowly, keeping her hands open and relaxed. She whispered softly, "Hello, friend. I am here to learn from you." The stallion shifted slightly, its ears flicking toward her. Karen froze, remembering the guard's words. She waited patiently, allowing the horse to adjust to her presence. Slowly, carefully, the horse stepped closer. Karen held her breath, her excitement growing, but she remained calm. This was not about rushing or touching, it was about trust and respect. After a few moments, the trainer nodded in approval. "The horse is comfortable," he said. "You may stand closer, but do not attempt to touch it yet. Observe and let it get used to you." Karen stepped forward a little more, her eyes locked on the horse's. She felt a sense of joy she had never experienced before. The bond she had been building from a distance was now becoming stronger, a connection of understanding and admiration. She realized that patience had brought her closer than she could have imagined. Throughout the morning, Karen continued to observe, learning more about the horse's behavior, movements, and responses. She asked questions politely and received thoughtful answers from the trainers and guards. Each answer deepened her understanding and respect. Karen felt as if she were part of a secret world, a place where trust, patience, and care created beauty and harmony. As noon approached, the stallion was led to a small paddock for exercise. Karen followed at a respectful distance, marveling at the horse's strength and elegance. It galloped gracefully, its mane flowing in the wind, each movement precise and powerful. Karen's admiration grew even stronger. She realized that the true beauty of the horse was not only in its appearance, but in its intelligence, discipline, and grace. Karen spent the rest of the day observing, asking questions, and learning. She learned about the diets of horses, the importance of regular exercise, and the way trainers communicate through subtle cues. Every lesson fascinated her and filled her with a sense of accomplishment. She had grown from a curious visitor to a thoughtful observer, someone who could appreciate the complexity and beauty of the horses without needing to rush or touch. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the palace gardens, Karen took one last look at the white stallion. The horse stood proudly in the paddock, calm and majestic. Karen whispered softly, "Thank you for teaching me, for letting me learn from you." She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the stallion, the trainers, and the guards who had guided her experience. Walking back through the palace, Karen reflected on everything she had learned. She realized that patience, respect, and careful observation were more valuable than any immediate gratification. She understood that true admiration was expressed through understanding, not possession. The palace had shown her that curiosity, guided by respect, could lead to meaningful connections and unforgettable experiences. As Karen left the palace that evening, she felt a sense of completion and joy. She had learned lessons that went beyond horses or rules, lessons about patience, trust, understanding, and the beauty of quiet connections. She knew she would carry these lessons with her forever, and that the memory of the white stallion would remain a source of inspiration and wonder. Karen turned for one last glance at the palace gates, now glowing in the light of the setting sun. She smiled, knowing that she had grown not only in knowledge, but also in heart and spirit. The palace, the horses, and the dedicated people who cared for them had given her an unforgettable experience. She had learned that admiration could be quiet, connection could be patient, and respect could create bonds stronger than any touch. With a heart full of gratitude, Karen walked home, carrying the lessons of the day with her. She knew that she would return one day, eager to continue learning, observing, and deepening her understanding. But for now, she felt complete, enriched, and inspired by the majestic world she had been allowed to witness. The memory of the white stallion, the palace, and the lessons she had learned would stay with her forever, reminding her that true beauty and connection often require patience, respect, and understanding. And with that thought, Corinne knew that she had experienced something truly magical, something that would shape her curiosity, her admiration, and her heart for years to come.